Okay, guys, we've got 4 races we want to have a look at. Big day at Pukekohe, and obviously Riccarton as well. And we're starting in race number 4, which is the Stefanos by Deep Impact Champagne Stakes for the 2-year-olds over the mile, Steve.
Headed by Waitak, comes out of a Group 1 size produce, running a placing at $2.70. Front of Mr. Maestro at $5. Sharp and Smart, very unlucky on debut at $7. Diagon Alley, $8, just out of turn there. Vino Bianca from the CD, out of turn, 9 double figures, 10. Texas also out of point, 10 out to 11. Financier, $15. Purdy Brothers, 26 into 21, so a little bit of infirmment there for Leith Innes, the Wallace-Cooksley combo, and best of the rest is Boss Man at a $26 price. So no clear lead here. Thaddeus says 4 or 5 they're willing to play, including the favourite Waitak, Opie Blossom, and the Williams team at $2.70.
Yeah, okay. BP, always intriguing when these 2-year-olds step to a mile, isn't it? Because, not to say that we're looking at perhaps horses that might push on to 3. They might be late bloomers at 2 and they step to the mile, and this is a good race for them, isn't it?
It is. It really is. And when you've got some Group 1 form in the race, it's a pretty hard one to ignore, isn't it? And that being the run at the top of the book in Waitak, who was superb when finishing into 3rd position in the Manawa 2 size produce stakes, was back, second to last with one other runner that was slow away in that race and, was making some ground on Maven Bell and Wolverine, 2 horses that are clear benchmark runners in terms of our 2-year-old racing this season. So that in itself is a great tick in the box. 1,600 metres before him being a son of Prasia, Opie Bosson aboard. Now barrier number 12, not too concerned about with this being over 1,600 metres, and you've got a straight of 520 metres to work with in the home straight out of Pukekohe. So there is a lot of good factors to say that they can still find the right spot they want to be challenging and winning the race. So he is a deserved favourite at $2.70, and I'm with them also. But there are a few dangers here, and there's a couple of other different angles to take on this race. You've got the Diagon Alley race out of Ruakaka. Now, she's a horse who sat 3 wide on speed in that race. Looked like she was going to get run down and just found a way to win. Maybe Sharp and Smart was going to win that race with just how wayward the horse was in the concluding stages and threw the race away, basically. There was a couple of others in that race that didn't mind too. Financier was one of those horses that caught the eye with what he was able to do late in the piece. He's drawn well here on Saturday, drawn in barrier number 1. He might be one for the overs punters. And Boss Man just got no luck. Just was stuck 3 back the fence and practically went to the line with a full tank of gas. Is drawn in barrier number 10. So there's a few different ways you can break that race up. And then you've got the Mr. Maestro form line, a horse who was winning last time out of Avondale, beating home Texas. But I do keep coming back to the Group 1 form around Waitak, that 3rd in the Manawa 2 size produce stakes.
Yeah, it does look impressive on paper, doesn't it, Paul? That form around Waitak, and a few form lines to line up, as Pop suggests.
Very much so. In fact, Waitak ran some very sharp sectionals in behind Maven Bell in the Manawa 2 size. So I can understand the price, $2.70 currently. But I've looked a wee bit further afield, not too far.
Good.
I thought Sharp and Smart, and I thought Lindsay Satherley did a brilliant job by keeping him in the race. Sharp and Smart, he jumped away, and it looked like he wasn't really interested in actually going to the races that day, and then was all over the place down the straight, not unlike yourself as you cross the dance floor at Dirty Little Secret heading to the bar to get us a drink. But I look at it and I think, look, if we can just get a few manners there and stepping up to the 1,600, I think definitely is ideal for this boy. Once again, even though he was running about the place down that straight, he also had some very sharp sectionals. He's looking sharp. Yep. If he can just be a wee bit smarter.
Very good. I like what you've done there.
I think he is a live chance.
Yeah, okay.
So, yeah, 650. I think out to 7 now. So I'm very, very tempted by Sharp and Smart. I think Team Rogerson will have taught him a few lessons since that run at Ruakaka. And we saw in the trial the week before Ruakaka that he got in a wee bit of trouble there as well at Cambridge. So just if he's got a few more manners,
some ring smarts.
I think it'd be half the price if he had the manners at Ruakaka.
Yeah, okay. Steve, initial thoughts here in the 2-year-old. You've obviously got the Group 1 form at the top of the book here in Waitak.
Yeah, he almost picks himself to be the horse to beat off the back of that Group 1 placing. I think pedigree comes into it, particularly over 1,600 metres with juveniles. 12 to 14 is not a huge step, but 14 to 16, I feel you've got to take note with particularly juveniles this time of the year. Bit of pedigree, looking for horses that will get that true 16/mile. And as you mentioned, Sharp and Smart being by Redwood, there's no dramas there out of a Swiss Ace mare just to ignite a bit of speed. I'm very keen on this Mr. Maestro. Again, pedigree, which I'll touch on shortly, but just on overall figures, 1.8 lengths inferior to what YTAX PB sits at present. But I feel this horse is improving significantly race by race. And I loved its last start, the improvement it made from its fifth when freshened up, comes out of the right stable, and on that pedigree being by Zavabil, out of a top family on the dam side, Lion Tamer, etc., which we know won a VRC Derby. I'm predicting this horse to be a gun 3-year-old. So whatever it does as a juvenile is a bonus. But I just feel with this right race in terms of 1,600, being in a nice position here in terms of bouncing off a maiden win, and thinking it's still got natural improvement off that maiden victory, it can take that step up to where YTAX sits in terms of PBs. But yeah, it's a funny race. I don't have a strong opinion with a lot of these juveniles having little data, small sample size to really dive into. But Mr. Maestro does stand out for a horse that I'll be looking towards as a 3-year-old, but I think can get the job done on Saturday.
Don't the Baker Forsman stable own this race, just from memory, without thinking too?
Yeah, I think
tend to go very well.
Was
in
it
this race.
Done Deal that won this race as a juvenile?
Pops
BP,
name,
did Done Deal win this race?
No, he didn't win this race. He won a race on the Queen's, one of the Monday meetings. It was at the Queen's birthday Monday a few years ago, Done Deal, and then was up and running and ready to go into his 3-year-old season. But yeah, you're right. I mean, this is a race where you can identify a horse that will be ready for a 3-year-old preparation. And look, this is a great chance to be able to try and see if a horse is capable of getting to, a 2,000 guineas, 1,000 guineas, those type of races into next season over the 1,600 metres. It just gives you a little bit of a guideline of where you're heading, and then a short break, and then into the spring preparation. So yeah, I think it's a good line for those horses moving forward. I like what you're saying about Mr. Maestro. I sort of see it as one of the key dangers in the race with how he performed last time to the races out of Avondale. I do like Financier. Runner number 6 is my sort of each-way roughie in the race, just on where he's going to land. He's by Tavistock. 1,600 metres should be no issue for him in the way that he ran through the line at his last start. In that Diagon Alley Sharp and Smart race, he's just the one that might get me on a top 4 and include in a trifecta in first 4 if you're just looking away from those runners at the top of the book.
Yeah, okay. I see a bit of money for Financier too, Steve. 16 into 15, so a little bit of interest there. Tavistock.
100%, I agree. Out of the horses that away from the top 3 or 4 in the market, that's the one I'm fairly keen on. Financier, as BP mentioned, just got in a nice position. I think it's 1 out, 1 back, and looked to come off heels at the top of the straight at Ruakaka and make its challenge, but just got clustered around a few horses. And for the majority of the straight, there was a horse on the outer of it, laying on top of it for the. Basically, as I say, the majority only got out in the last 75 and was doing its best work late and through the line. And being by Tavistock 1,600, I go back to pedigree. That is a key asset around Financier. And look, Tavistock hasn't left too many, will be a handful of 2-year-old black type performers, so be knocking the trend there. But there's something about it. Again, a horse that I'll be keeping an eye on in terms of early 3-year-old races as well.
Okay, BP. So you had YTAC on top.
Yeah, I went YTAC on top, and I'm going to have a little play on Financier, top 4, and throw it into a trifecta in first 4.
Yeah, okay, that sounds fair enough. Paul, final thoughts here on the 2-year-old Champagne. I mean, if you liked Sharp and Smart, you might have had Diagon Alley in play and Financier, as the boys mentioned. Where'd you sort of land here in the 2-year-old?
I'm happy to go with Sharp and Smart at the $7 mark. Yes, I think that's slightly overpriced myself.
Slightly overpriced.
I'm very, very happy to take the $7.
Okay, you think it's
This is the man that suggested last week, Coventina Bay, definitely favourite.
was temporarily.
Hey, that's the thing about racing. We don't like harping back to last week too much. It can
The Aussie money
embarrass
ruined
us.
it.
The Aussie money. The Aussie money for Tiakio well and truly ruined it. Okay, team. The boys keen on YTAC and Sharp and Smart there in the Champagne. Race number 6